Welcome to She Chose Joy with Melanie, where we discuss all things love, freedom, wellness, and joy. I'm your host, Melanie Foote-Davis, also known as the Soul Whisperer. Hey, we've all experienced some level of regrets, right? Well, my guest, LeeAnn Webster, is no stranger to regrets either, but she doesn't see it as a bad thing. Instead, she's learned to use her regrets as a navigation system. It guides her path to a life of joy, adventure, and fulfillment. Check it out. Well, hello, Miss LeeAnn. Welcome to She Chose Joy with Melanie.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I am too. I love meeting fascinating people with cool stories and things like that. And it's so many aspects of your journey that I find both inspiring and courageous. And years ago, I had an Akashic reading or what have you, and they shared that like a part of my essence like really wants to live boldly and love courageously. And I found that to land in here because I meet people who make bold choices. Like I'm just surrounded by people who dare to be courageous in the way that they live their life. And then you landed in my awareness. So here we go. And I'm kind of corny, and you got my corny during our very first meeting.
I did. I was like, yes, she's one of my people.
Yeah, so thank you so much for saying yes to sharing a part of your journey and your coininess with the world, right? For the sake of helping people to envision or see things a little differently. Um, and one of the things is like, of course, we can't sum up your life in 30 to 45 minutes, of course, but you've had a very fascinating journey.
Yeah.
That led you to a place where you talk about having a life of no regrets. So how, my dear, did you get here?
Well, it's really interesting because I have achieved a lot of things in life. I mean, and on spectrums, right? So like I went from barely graduating high school to being like top 20% of my law school class. I went from like not running at all to finishing an Ironman. I went from being terrified to speak in public to being a professional keynote speaker. From hosting events in my living room to starting a national dating trend. So I'm like, wow, like I've made a lot of bold moves. When I kind of look back at my life, it's like, I've done a lot of things. And how did I do it? Because people would ask me a lot, well, how are you so bold? How do you do that? How does that work? And I realized there's this kind of set of beliefs that I've been living by and set of actions, and I've been able to actually codify them into a formula, and I call it the no regrets formula. So it's kind of like looking at what are the steps to take to really be able to say, yeah, I'm living the life that I want to live. Or even when you regret things, which regret's not bad, we can talk about that. But even if you regret something, like how do you kind of rebound from that and then get back on the path you want to be on?
Yeah. Okay. So this is yummy. So what I heard you say is, so everything that you didn't do, which could have actually been like where you say, okay, well, I barely run. So how could I dare enter Ironman?
Right.
Or I I'm not doing well in high school. How could I possibly even consider law school, let alone be at the top of your class, right? All of these different things where I'm hearing is like a complete 180 um, from where you started or what appeared to be true for you versus what actually became true for you. And and I know I was looking for a quote earlier that I am not going to try to quote because I didn't find it, but it was really about like, it's not so much about the goals that we're trying to achieve or, you know, aspire to attain, but it's who you become in the process.
Yes. Yes.
So I have two, yeah, that sparks two questions. Like, what was that? Was this tied to your no regrets formula as well, in terms of how you go from here to here, right?
Yeah.
And well, and who you become through this process.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's actually one of the, I have a similar quote that I talk about when I talk about the no regrets formula, because part of it is, I believe that, yeah, that the, let me start back here. Sometimes when, especially if we're, you know, a successful and type A people, and, you know, and we have a goal that we want to go to, sometimes we get really caught up in going after that goal. And it becomes like well, I've decided I want to do this, so I'm going to do that. And it's kind of like, you know, everything possible to go reach that goal. And I think that that puts us in, not in the place where we often don't make the right decision. And so what I'm really about, and what has, I think, helped me make all these changes, is connecting to, first of all, committing. It's the first step in my formula, committing to myself first over anything else, over people, goals, whatever. And what that looks like is me saying like, okay, I want to be happy, to take it, or joyful. Let's pick joyful.
Right.
I want to choose joy. And so right now, choosing joy may seem like I would feel joyful if I ran a marathon, let's say. And you could start going that route. And if it does end up being that's the thing that brings you joy, and that whole process does, then great. You'll probably end up running the marathon. You'll be happy doing it. And on the way to that, you might realize like, I really don't like running. And, you know, and I've tried it different ways, and I've tried all these different things, and it turns out I'd rather swim than run. And so if you have that connection and commitment to yourself first, so I'm going to choose joy, then you'll say like, does it make sense for me to keep training to run the marathon? Or does it make sense for me to take what I'm learning from the marathon and then say, you know what, let me apply this to something else, and I'll try a long distance swim instead. And so committing to yourself means that you'll be okay with changing paths and changing course, because you want to stay connected to what is true for you, no matter the goal. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, because it's like, the way I'm hearing it is that we don't become attached to the goal of the run or whatever that thing may be. What we are aligning with is the joy that we chose, or the happiness. And so if that other thing that looks like the goal, if we become attached to that, then we may keep striving towards that, which takes us away from the underlying goal that really was the catalyst for it all anyway, which is to step into joy, to choose joy, to live a happy, fulfilling life. And sometimes that's where we get tripped up. It's like, but I said I was going to run this marathon, and I told people that I was going to do this. So now I might be seen as a failure. I may be criticized. I may be shamed. I may be anything. You can insert it with whatever that, you know, whatever your personal narrative is, right?
Right.
That can keep you attached to that thing that we thought was the goal.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So there's a piece of that. And that doesn't mean that, like, I mean, look, doing things like marathons, Ironman, whatever, they can be hard. It doesn't mean like every day is going to be joyful. It just means on the journey. Because what's interesting about like my Ironman journey, for example, is I was not a runner. Like I used to say, I only run if someone's chasing me, and if he's cute, I stop. Like, like I was like, And then it was like, I had the idea of, I want to do an obstacle course. Like for some reason, it always seemed fun to me. And so it was like, and so then I found this race that was an obstacle course, and it was an 11-mile course. And my friend was like, you're going to have to run. And I was like, oh no, I can walk in between the obstacles. She's like, maybe you could explore running. And I was like, nah. And so, but I wanted to do the obstacle course. That seemed like fun. So it was like going after what was fun. And in the course of that, I started running. And then it was like, oh, well, that actually wasn't so bad. I kind of like that. Okay, well, 11 miles, I could do a half marathon. It's only 2 more miles and there's no obstacles. I could do that. So I didn't start saying I'm going to be an Ironman, right? Because that's like way too much of a jump. But I was like, ooh, I want to be more athletic. I want to explore this side of me. I want to challenge my body. I want to get more physical. I want to see what my body can do. And so that meant the course and then the half marathon, and it evolved from there. And so in pursuing that, I was able to get to Ironman, which I got to tell you, when I first started running, I was like, Ironman, that's stupid. Who would even try that?
Right.
And then there I am. So it's that pursuit of that bigger kind of energetic that got me there.
Got you. It's interesting because the day when we had our first live conversation, you had just finished doing a half Murph, right?
Yes. Yes.
Which was another way that you were challenging your body to see what it could do.
Yes. Yeah. I really do like physical challenges. I summited in Kilimanjaro in December. I think part of it is because, once again, I remember being, 10, 11 years old, and somehow I ended up on the, rec league softball team. I don't know how that happened. And I didn't know how to play, and teach me how to play. And then like game day came and I got a stomach ache. And I now know I got a stomach ache because I was nervous, because I wasn't confident, and I just barely started playing, and I was worried I was going to make a mistake. Nobody told me, hey, it's just because you're nervous, let's do this. Like, I don't know where the coach was, but he didn't try to help me. And so I quit because I just felt sick, and I didn't like it, and I was uncomfortable, and nobody kind of helped me get through that. So I left. So to go from that girl who got a stomachache at a softball game and didn't even try, to being an Ironman, it's like such a giant leap.
Yeah.
And it's like, I find that I have really liked exploring the physical side. And I think that's part of it, right? They think there's that little girl in me who's like, yeah, I really wanted to play. And so it's like, okay, how can I play with this a little more?
I really appreciate you using the word play. We use that a lot. My clients and I use that a lot too. Like, how can we play with this? Like, how can we just explore and be curious about this? And you know what else I'm curious about right now? How you just breezed past, well, I summited Kilimanjaro in December. Like, that was like, oh, I went to grab a coffee at at Starbucks. I'm curious about how, even that, that was a huge accomplishment as well, to summit Kilimanjaro. And so that makes me curious about, do you celebrate when you hit these mile markers?
Oh yeah.
A plate, how do you take time to just really be in the celebration of that?
Yeah, it's so interesting that we're talking about it today, because so the short answer is yes. Summiting Kilimanjaro was part of a whole almost 3-week trip to Africa. We did safari, we did a hot air balloon, we visited giraffes, did Kilimanjaro, and then we went to the beach. So it was after we did this big trek, we went to the beach by the Indian Ocean in Mombasa and laid on the beach, me and my friends that had done it, and we'd had cocktails, we celebrated the new year. Like it was, we made sure we like took that in.
Okay.
And it's interesting. It's just interesting today you're asking me this, because literally this morning when I did my walk by the lake, I thought, wow, that was such a moment. It was there's so much happened, and it was such an occurrence. And I thought I really wanted like go back into it. And so I spent time this morning kind of celebrating. So I was like, I want to honor what an achievement that was, and all of it, the whole thing of it. And I literally this morning was like going back to the moment of, the days leading up and to the summit day, and when I thought I wasn't going to make it. And then when I peeked over this one thing and they were like, it's over there. And, and the being there, like I went back into it to really like honor it again, because that was such a huge moment. And we do that so often in life. We have these moments where we're striving, you do the thing, and then it's like, okay, that's done. And what's the next thing?
Right.
And it's like, no, like that was huge. Let me take that in.
Well, I mean, like my heart oozed when you told me that you actually took time to just like revisit that and just bring yourself back into that space, because there's so much of that, like what you just said, where we hit a goal and then it's like, boom, off to the next one. Yeah, I did this. Now I need to. And it's this never ending to-do list. And where do we get a chance to really just be?
Yeah.
Like how powerful would it be to have a to-be list where we just get to practice our beingness and being in that moment, being present for, wow, I worked so hard to get here, and then we're just going to bypass it? Like, no, let's get out here.
Yeah.
Let's feel into the goodness that's here.
Yeah. I've got a to-be list.
Yeah, I'm really gonna craft that, because something around that, because I feel it's so important.
Yeah. And because otherwise, like, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's dismissive in a way. It's dismissive in some, and I don't think it's intentional, but to your journey.
Yeah. Well,
and your whole journey of getting to this thing, this I don't have a word for it, so we're going to just leave it at this.
Yeah, I love it. Well, it's so true, because it takes so much leading up. Like, I was part of what I was thinking about was like, the journey to even get to the top of Kilimanjaro. Like that was 7 months between the time when my friend asked me and when I did it. And so it's like there was 7 months of which part of what I love about setting the goals and having it change who you become is, like I say, that transformation starts with initiation. So when you get that vision and you first connect to it, then it changes who you are today and how you behave and what actions you take and all that. And it's like you can live in that all the way up. And then, why just flop off on the other side? I did do that with the Ironman. I swear, for like a week after the Ironman, I was like, I don't want to do anything but think about how amazing that was. Like I was just like basking in the glow of it.
Yeah. So you did that for the Ironman. You bask in the glow of it. You did that this morning where you honored the journey with your like summiting the Kilimanjaro. So what about, there's like, okay, so rumor has it that there's this one woman show called
this one?
Yeah, that one. For those of you who are listening and not watching, LeeAnn just held up the playbill. There's this one woman show starring this one woman who's in this conversation with me right now, LeeAnn Webster, called Fancy Meeting Me Here. And so how did this journey of you, like from the way you challenge yourself physically, because we can't challenge ourselves physically and not have some emotions show up for us, right?
100%.
And going back to thinking about is not just like what the goals we reach, but who we become in the process. So how does this whole journey of you challenging yourself physically, you challenging yourself educationally, right? If you went from where you were in high school to being at the top of your class in law school, right?
Mhm.
Um, you've been an attorney. Well, in my mind, you'll forever be one once you've done
Yes,
it.
same.
You
I'm still paying off the loans, so I still get to
right.
claim it.
You're an attorney. You've had a speed dating business, which is fascinating in and of itself, right?
The whole other show. The whole other show.
You challenged yourself physically with all these things, and now here you are sharing a story of self-love and healing and discovering called Fancy Meeting Me Here.
Mm.
So it's fancy meeting you here on She Gives Joy podcast.
Thank you.
How did you get to that one woman show?
So that's a fascinating journey too. So through my life, because I have achieved different things and I didn't come from the most stable background. My dad was an alcoholic, my mom was bipolar, we were poor growing up, and there was an early tragedy in my family that really kind of set the energetic
Mhm.
for my early years. And so throughout my life, people would hear those things, hear those stories, and then see me
Mhm.
accomplishing and doing these things. And they'd say, well, it's amazing you've been able to achieve so much. How do
Mhm.
you do it? And you should write a book. That's what I kept hearing. You should write a book. And it was like, yeah, I feel like I've got a couple books in me, but I don't know. So that's happening. And
Mhm.
then almost 2 years ago, I had a conversation with one of my mindset coaches, and she was saying, you do so much in your business. What's your next Ironman? Like, not that you have to do an Ironman, but your next kind of big thing. And what do you like? What do you do just for fun? And so that got my brain thinking, what do I do just for fun? What when have I done something that I just loved it and it was a stretch and I want to do more of it? And I immediately thought of in December 2019, a friend did this variety show in Denver, and he gave me a 15-minute comedic storytelling spot. So not stand up, which I love, but don't want to do. But I'm a
Yeah.
speaker, so it's like I get to tell stories, and I loved it. Like, it was fun, it was challenging, it was like nerve wracking, but I
Mhm.
got some of the biggest laughs of the night, like even over the stand ups, and I was like, ooh, like I love that. How do I more of that? So
Mhm.
then I started, well, maybe I'm a storyteller. So I start going to events. I went to the Moth. I'm a Chicago Moth Story Slam winner, by the way.
Mhm.
And so I started doing that. And all of this is culminating. And one day I literally woke up and the thought went through my head, what if I did my own one woman show? And then I was like, who's asking that question? Because I don't have an acting background. I don't do theater. I don't know. And then I was like, okay, well, do I know anyone who has a one woman show? And I thought, yeah, I actually know 3 women who have done their own one woman show. Like, I'll just call them. I'll see what they did, what it's like. I'll just start exploring.
Mhm.
So I start that. The next thing I know, like, one of them says, oh, I can coach you through it. And then she created this whole program. And I said, yes, I'm committed. I'll commit to the year, to working with you, to putting it on and then putting it together. And then in April, it premiered. Like, it happened. And it was like, when all those people were saying write a book, that didn't feel very exciting to me. It didn't feel very joyful. It didn't feel very fun. I've never had a creation in me like this that felt so much like it wanted to come out in this specific way. And it just felt like it wants to be a show. And the more I explored that and played with that, the more I realized it was fun. And I'm not gonna lie, I mean, it was work, and it was pretty effortless in a lot of ways. Like, things just came
Mhm.
together with it. Find the right person to help me on the journey. Find the name. The name came in very easily. The writing coach, the director, the theater, like the tech for
Mhm.
everything has just like so.
Can we pause right here for a moment?
Yeah,
Let's play with this
yeah,
for a minute, right?
yeah.
Okay. I did hear you say you are a moth, what's it called?
A
Um,
Moth Story Slam winner.
a moth story slam winner, which I did watch the clip. So
Oh,
I
you
did
did?
hear that. So I want to acknowledge that I heard that. So congratulations.
Thank you.
But here's the thing. What I just heard you say was that it was work, but it also was effortless. So the way my brain and my heart and soul translates that is that we've been conditioned to believe that everything, in order to have anything, you have to work hard for it. But what I'm actually hearing as a running theme through different aspects of your life is that you made a decision, right? Going back to you saying the first step, like committing, right? You committed to something. And once you said yes to it, then the other details began to unfold.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
people that are meant to work with you on it, all of those things start to fall into place when you said yes to it.
Yes. Yes. And
Yeah.
I'm aligned because
Yeah.
I feel like there's an interesting thing that I've been thinking about a lot myself because I said yes to a whole lot of things that haven't come to
Mhm.
fruition, you
Right.
know? And so I'm always like, well, what's the difference, right? Like
Mhm.
I was just as committed to this as I was to that, and that happened and that didn't. And I think there's a piece of it that is also just like, how do I say this? It's almost like being able to say yes to the things that are unfolding and in the flow and not being attached to all the things that you say yes to, you know,
Yes.
being open to the fact that like 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 if I would have said, if I would have in almost 2 years ago when the idea came to me, if I would have been like, well, okay, I'm going to do a show and I'm going to set a date and I'm going to, you know, and it has to happen in this amount of time. And if I would have been like around it, I don't think it would have
Mhm.
happened. It wouldn't, I know it wouldn't have happened the way it did. But instead, I was like, okay, well, let me explore this. I'll just go through that. Okay, well, let me do this. Okay, great. Oh, well, oh,
Yeah.
maybe I need this. And it's like, here comes this resource. So it was like allowing it to unfold.
Yes. So I'm hearing commitment plus alignment because when someone mentioned a book, it didn't align for you. So you didn't say yes to it. And there was something in you that knew that it was off, right? And then the
Yeah.
detachment from the how, detachment from it having to happen within a certain time construct.
Yeah.
Um, all of these different pieces.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting because when one of those women said, one of the women I talked to who ultimately ended up coaching me through the process, you know, I spoke with her in, let's say, July or 2021.
Mhm.
That's when the idea started happening. And then in August, she was like, okay, well, you know what, I can help you. And here's a whole year long thing, what it would look like. And I remember being like, yes, I need your help. And I was like, and I do not have the funds for this. And then it was like, okay. And I thought, well, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to happen, but that feels right. So I'm going to like, let it go. And I would think, and within a couple of weeks, it was like, oh, here's how you get the funds. And then the funds came in February. So it was still a few months.
Mhm.
And it was like, okay, like when it happens, it's going to happen in the perfect way, in the perfect how. And then and that's how it unfolded. So it was like this great, like, yeah, like I'm committed. I think I'm committed to doing it. Yeah, I'm going to have a show and it's going to happen the way it's going to happen.
Yeah. Another way that detachment was important because if you had been attached to you having to be you being the only means to funding it, you would have created some limitations around how it could happen and wouldn't have been able to um had your hands open, if you will, to receive the funds that came, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So
And they came when they were supposed to come. Like I was very also like I want to get, I want to start now. I want to start now. And it's like, nope, they came when they came. And it was perfect. It's perfect that they came when they came because
yeah.
then we started in April and then that let me premiere in April, which, you know, let me like, now I've got 3 shows coming up in June. So it's like, it's fine. It's perfect.
Yeah, which I'm sad about because when I heard about it, was like, okay, I'm in, I'm going to the show. Like my daughter and my husband and I love the theater and things like that. So I'm like, hey, I'm getting to choose the next show we go to. And then I go to the link and I'm like, wah, wah, because I'm actually going to be out of town during that time. However, I really am like in my heart, I just really wanted to just be successful, sold out, like really be all that it was intended to be. And so I'll catch the next run,
Yes,
right?
yes. Well, and I'm cooking up what'll happen right now. I just, the only thing booked is are these 3 dates in June 22nd, 23rd, 24th in Chicago. And I'm open universe to taking this to other cities and to going around, and that's floating around in my head right now too. So yeah.
Yeah, so we can pause for a quick commercial break. Those of you who are in Chicago or who have friends, associates, colleagues in Chicago, by all means, send them to see Fancy Meeting Me here in Chicago. And if you'd like to bring it to your town, still reach out to LeeAnn and like start that conversation, right?
100%. Yes.
And
We'll
I'm
go
super
on the
honored
road.
to be a contributor in that, like saying,
Yeah.
hey, here she is, world.
Yes.
Here she
Yes.
is.
Yes.
So, okay, so Fancy Meeting Me here. You could, after you realize that you found joy, like there was something good about hanging out in the space of comedic storytelling and you being able to share your story in this way. This is how she wanted to be expressed, is what I'm hearing, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
what is that like now that you're here? You've created this experience where you're sharing your journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is it like and how have you embraced being here now with this?
So it's a fascinating journey, especially, I mean, I was just saying to someone this morning, it's the personal development and healing workshop that I didn't know I needed. Like, because if you can imagine, if you take, in my case, these stories from my upbringing, that some people knew some stories, nobody knows all of the stories, nobody can know everything. And some of them are stories that, I don't tell in polite conversation, like, and so it's like, oh, let's go back and just dredge all these up and not only revisit the stories, but in the process of rehearsing, like first there's the writing process, getting the story out and down and how do you want to tell it, and then there's the rehearsal process where you make it come alive, and I'm acting it out and I'm emotionally getting into the little girl who was scared or who was afraid or who felt all these very deep emotions and acting that out over and over and over. And so it's interesting because, first of all, the very act of doing that and kind of revisiting her allowed me to see some wounds that needed healing, just some spots where it was like, wow, I haven't visited this for a long time. Let me visit it and heal it as a adult. It also had me look at, I as one of my mentors says, energy is everything, right? So it had me look at the energetic, because what I found was happening with, I was going to rehearsal and I was stepping into this younger version of this girl who is hurt and scared and living in lack. And then I was taking her home. And so I ended up having to be getting really intentional and create this kind of energetic container around the show so that I could step into that prior version of me, be there with her, let her express and emote and feel that. And then, I have energetic doors that I literally step in and out of. And so then it's like I step out of that container when I come back home, and I step into my current day woman who is healed and confident and, and has evolved from that. So that was an interesting process as well. There's a lot to unpack in all that.
Yeah, that was actually, thanks for sharing that, because that was actually something I was curious about too. It's like, how did you honor and take care of yourself in the process of doing that because, you know, you didn't use the word trauma, so forgive me if it doesn't land, but we've all experienced some level of trauma in our
For
lives. It
sure.
looks
Yeah.
and feels different for everyone.
Mhm.
And so to be able to revisit that and still maintain your wholeness, also comes with a certain level of emotional intelligence and being able to know when to push, when to pull, and when to just be, and what
Yeah.
things to let go of.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm glad that you actually have a process that helps to support you throughout that, because in order to put this work out in the world, it also is important to be healed or healing from it or through it,
Yes.
which
Yes.
also plays a role in the timing of it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It all like it all
Right.
comes together perfectly. And
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And
I
it's
believe
been,
it's Lisa Nichols who calls it like healing where you're standing on your story, not in your story.
ooh, I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's interesting because part of what I've also, and I don't even think I've articulated this until just right now, part of what I've also been able to do is go love her, love that younger version and give her love.
Mhm.
Where I feel like there's been times, and we all do this in some ways, where it's like I'm distancing, she has lack, she has, and I don't want to pull that in. And it's like, no, like, right. I don't want to bring that energetic into today. And I can honor her and
Yeah.
where she was at and what she was going through and how she helped me become me today and love on her for that, because there's a lot of lessons that I learned and a lot of things that I took from those early days that I wouldn't wish anyone to have to go through it to learn
Right.
those lessons. And I'm super glad that I did, because that's the woman who climbs Kilimanjaro, becomes an Ironman, who's, starts a speed date. Like that she exists because of the young girl.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So what was it like after doing your first show?
It was it was one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. And I've done a lot of cool stuff, but let me tell you why. there was there was there was like a lot of levels, right? There was the combination of wow, I still remember that morning when I woke up and it was like, what if I did a show? So to go from that to like I'm on stage and I'm doing the show, like is like, whoa, that's kind of incredible. Um to revisit the stories and then to act. I before I would have said I'm not an actress.
Mhm.
And like I got some acting chops, to get out there and kind of strut my stuff in a new way and and put that out there. Um and then there's whenever I think about the show, one of the moments I always think about is I was a little concerned going in about my ability to memorize, because I don't have an acting background, and I'm a speaker, I'm a professional speaker, but I always have PowerPoint, and so that kind of like keeps me on track. And
Right.
when you're speaking generally, you can, even in my keynotes, like I know the points I'm going to cover and I know the information, and I don't have to say it the exact same way each time. But theater is different because you've got to be on the mark, and what you say cues the lighting guy to like change the lighting, or that it's much more demanding in that way. And so I was like, because we would do rehearsals and my director would sit there with the script, like following, and like some days it was like, man, I would get it, and some days I'd be off. And I was really, and he was worried that I would get into this full theater and just be like, and just blank, because having only rehearsed with him, I knew I wouldn't have any problems. But anyway, so we had him there in the front row with the copy of the script, and the deal was, if I got stuck, I would take a breath, and then if I really needed it, I would call line, and then he would read me the line, and then I'd go. Or if I got really stuck, I had a couple copies of the script tucked away in a couple places on stage. So if I just really got stuck, I could just go pull them out and do it. And so probably like a third of the way through the show, I'm up there, and you can't see the audience. It's theater lights, so it's like just lights just right in your eyes. But I caught out of the corner of my eye the script on my director's lap, and I saw him like turn the page as I was speaking. And there was another little part of my brain that was like, you turn that page. I don't need that page. I'm crushing it up here. I am crushing it. Like, it was like, I know my lines, it's in me. And so that, like, having that awareness and that just feeling of like, I don't think I've ever been so present for an hour in my life, because I was just there and I was just in the story and I was delivering it, and they were laughing and the audience was with me, and then they were crying and it was just, oh, it was amazing.
Mm.
I don't know how to explain how amazing that hour was.
Yeah. I'm sitting here just like, and of course I can see you. And then we've also talked about this before, where I remember, I'm even reflecting back to the day we met and I asked you about this, and how your whole body shifted when you talked about it. Like, it softened, and like, I saw you go back there, and it was this warmth. This is the way I witnessed it, right? Do you remember that day?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I saw like your body, it just softened, and it was like you went right into that space. Um, and all I could feel was like heart and love just oozing over it, which makes me think about what you just said earlier about loving that little girl and loving. And so the way I'm envisioning it, which may not be the way it landed for you, was in that 1 hour, you gave all parts of you love.
Mm, good.
The parts that didn't get what she needed, the parts that wanted to be expressed and have voice in situations, like being able to find that, the parts that wanted to be heard, the parts that wanted to feel connected, nurtured and nourished and celebrated and acknowledged and championed and all of that stuff. Though, yeah, it's like an hour of you honoring all parts of you. And that
Oof.
just makes my heart ooze right now.
Thank you. That you're making me well up thinking about. You're right. You've captured that. Yeah, I did. I gave her love. And I honored her, all of her, all
Yes.
of her. Yeah. Mm, Thank you.
Mm. And the way you even channeled, like, celebrated yourself and was your own cheerleader in the process, like, I got this, I know this, like this whole embodiment of it all. Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a
Mm.
magical hour. And now I'm like, are the next three going to be, how do I get the next three to be like that magical? Like,
And just trust it and just show up
Yeah.
with all of you,
Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
And I know you have, another appointment after this. So I want to honor and respect your time. But before you go, so first of all, thank you so much
My
for showing
pleasure.
up
This is
here
so
and
much fun.
sharing. And what are you grateful for in this moment? Like, what are you feeling really appreciative about?
The first thing that popped into my head was the journey.
Mm.
We get so caught up in the destination, get so caught up in getting to the top of the mountain or to the thing or having the show. And it's the journey is really where the juice is at. The destination is amazing. And it's the journey that really makes it.
Beautiful. And how do you choose joy, like, consistently?
Well, when I'm a comedy nerd, so part of the way I literally make sure I laugh every day. And part of it is just as simple sometimes as my Instagram feed. I follow a ton of comedians and things like that. And so my feed, it's not doom scrolling when I'm in there. It's, short bits and funny bits and things that put a smile on my face, and just it's really me cultivating that energy.
Oh, wow. Well, I think you and I talked about it where I say I crack myself up. Nobody else thinks I'm funny, but I crack myself up. So,
You, you.
so, so,
Me too.
so too bad you don't get a bit of me coming through your feed with my jokes that
I
crack
know.
me up.
I know. We need to remedy that. Get in my feed. Come on.
Oh, I'm being silly. No, I think I love that you laugh every day. My mother always said that laughter was good medicine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's really good. And how can listeners get in touch with you?
And the easiest way is just to go to my main website, which is my full name, LeeAnn Marie Webster. A lot of E's in there. There's a lot.
You
I
have
know
two
you'll
E's,
put it.
two N's.
Yeah, and I have a friend who was like, I think he's Romanian. It was funny when he saw my full name one time. He's like, "Wow, there's a lot of vowels in there," because they have a lot of consonants, a lot of vowels, a lot of vowels. So, LeeAnnMarieWebster.com. That will give you, if you there's a spot there, the page there, Fancy Meeting Me Here show. That'll give you all the show details, links to buy tickets. There's my no regrets formulas on there. There's just interviews. There's the moth. If you go to, I think it's interviews or something, you can catch the clip of my winning moth story. So there's all kinds of goodies on there.
And here's the other thing I didn't ask, like, what's your one thing that you would have? Well, I won't lock you into one. Something that you'd like to share before you go about living a life with no regrets.
That is possible. It's and that regrets aren't bad. Like sometimes I think people assume no regrets means that I don't want to have any regrets. There's nothing wrong with having regrets. Regrets are actually important to tell us what we value and what's important to us. It's just you don't want them to weigh you down. That's when regrets become a problem. So have regrets, just don't let them don't let them be the thing that prevents you from taking action and living the life that really is true to who you are.
That's good. That's a good nugget. Yeah. So basically using the regrets of basically information. It
Yeah.
tells you where you missed the mark, what's misaligned. It helps you get right back on.
Helps you navigate. Yeah. Helps you fit. Yeah.
Yeah. A navigation tool. Yeah, I like that. You said helps you navigate. Let's take that. So
Cool.
thank you again. And to all our listeners, I know that you found value in this show. You didn't get to fully experience all of the funny moments of LeeAnn because she is a hoot. Okay. Let me just say that. But your freedom lies in your decision to say yes to who you are, yes to what you want, and yes to what you stand for. So will you stand for a life of no regrets today? Will you take a moment to pause and to just discover, play with, get curious about what's your next Iron Man? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. And will you find, as you find something, are you willing to commit to it? Make sure that it aligns, right?
Yeah.
And detach from the when, what, who, what, why, or all of those details, but just play with it and enjoy the ride.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. Yes.
So with that said, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next episode.